This is Idol Insiders with your host, Bennett Shear.
Michelle, we're turning the tables because being on air at 107.1, The Boss, the best classic rock on the Jersey Shore, you usually ask the questions, so this should be fun.
I'm looking forward to this.
So writing for Variety, we can also find your work on Billboard, The Hollywood Reporter. Tell me how this journey started for you and what season you started covering American Idol.
I was on vacation from one of my radio jobs. I was doing a morning drive at a station called G1063. And I went out to California with my husband. And it was the first season of American Idol. I had just started watching it with Kelly versus Justin and Nikki McKibben. I was watching it all the way down. We went out to California and we're walking, there's Hollywood Boulevard, there's all the stars. And I saw a sign that said American Idol. The taping was in progress. I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is where it was so fortuitous. We went and we were waiting for everybody to come out. Kelly came out, Justin Greeny's dad. Like you couldn't miss Justin with the hair coming out. I high-fived Justin Greeny's dad. I'm like, I'm Jersey. We're right next door to each other. He was from Philly. All the cameras started going off. Tori Spelling walks out. And Tori Spelling is walking to the elevator. Tori, who do you like, Kelly or Justin? Kelly or Justin? She turns, she looks at the camera, she flips her hair, she goes, I don't know, they're both so great. I was like, this is just so awesome. So that was my introduction to American Idol. And I just watched all the seasons and I just was a fan of the show until one day I heard from Shirley Halperin, who had seen me talking about certain things in the music industry. And she was like, I need somebody to help with Idol coverage. You don't understand. This is a skill. This is a skill that's an untapped skill. Contestants and who sang the songs before. And she just had me start writing for her at the Hollywood Reporter. And it just progressed from there. That was season 10.
Wow. Well, people need to understand and appreciate that the Idol coverage in itself that's just an industry alone. When we're talking about American Idol and the behemoth that it became, this one show, as they called it, the Death Star, you were having to talk about the songs and the judges and the looks, and one show alone had so many different elements if you think about all the ingredients of American Idol, right?
Absolutely. And Shirley at the time was writing a book. And she needed help with the book. She was assigning me contestants. Of course, I could write chapters and chapters about Constantine, another Jersey boy. He was a favorite of mine. And it's just interesting because the first year I went out to Idol in California, it was the big finale. It was Scotty versus Lauren. They had this thing called Idols in the Courtyard, and they had all the previous idols that were out there from all the previous seasons. And I just remembered it was so cool because everywhere you turned around, there was just another idol that competed, and I knew so much about them. It was so much fun.
Tell me about the energy. It's no longer the Nokia Theater LA Live, but I remember being in LA a few months ago and just driving past it, having chills run down my spine because I remember hearing Ryan announcing that they were there so many times. And unfortunately, having never been there myself, but just being at that finale back when they would pack the theater with like 7,000 people. And that's the first thing you get to attend. I mean, it had to be electric.
There were so many people screaming across the street for that carpet. And there were so many celebrities walking, and the place just erupted when Adam Lambert showed up. I mean, he was royalty at that point. I just remembered, I'm standing there, and the first contestant that ran up to me was Casey Abrams. And I started to ask him about what they were going to be doing tonight. He goes, I don't know. It hasn't happened yet. I was like, that was my first trial by fire on the carpet for Idol, but it was so cool. Lil Wayne was on the carpet, Tim McGraw. He had his daughter. She was so shy. She looked so cute walking the carpet. There was just so many big stars. And people were screaming. They all had their signs up. I mean, that was crazy. People screaming, Scotty, Lauren. It was such a fun time out there. They had these cardboard cutouts of the idols. You could take your pictures with them. Taylor Hicks would show up and people would be screaming because they knew Taylor. It was in addition to the celebrities, the idols had become big celebrities themselves.
It's funny that you mentioned Casey Abrams because I was actually watching the clip yesterday of when he got saved. And To me,
And he's
those were some of
crying, remember?
and he ran out into the audience and hugged his parents. That actually gave me chills because you couldn't make those moments up. I think with reality television, and you must have so many different takes on this, we think about how a show is produced and everything that goes into making it. It's emotional. They want to tug at our heartstrings, and they have to kind of put together all these different ingredients, as I said, to make us feel at home. But that was one of the most genuine reactions to not an elimination, but a save. And they had a few of those throughout the series. But these kids, they're singing for their lives, and all of a sudden they get this second chance. And he looked like he was about to pass out, and then he keeps going on and on and on. But there's so many moments like that throughout the show where you can't make up the way that these kids feel, right, on live TV.
Absolutely. And the friendships they had, like Casey and Haley Reinhardt, that was very genuine
Yeah.
friendship they had. And Haley, I love her. I love her. She's probably one of my favorite idols because the nicest girl. She's had such success with everything she's done with Postmodern Jukebox. And remember when she did Rolling in the Deep, the Adele song, and she did that? I wonder how many people heard that song for the first time watching her do it.
Yeah.
Crazy as that is. And she did such a great job with it, with the song that probably a lot of people didn't really know yet. It was just fun watching them transform, just from, their auditions to becoming stars by the end of that season. And it was just, it was fun in the press room. The judges would come up to the microphone and they'd come into the room and you'd get to ask them questions. And one time Keith Urban came in and I raised my hand to ask him a question. He goes, "Yeah, baby." And I was like, he called me baby. And everybody was so giggling. They were like, "Oh my God." He was such a doll. But it was nice when people would come into the room, like Jimmy Iovine came in, and he was kind of like, how could you take the kids from this and then put them back out there? How do you come down from this? It was just, they'd put it into perspective. Steven Tyler came back there, and I remember when they were doing that Idols in the Courtyard, it was his first season as a judge. And all the kids out there in the courtyard were saying, "I wish the judges were like this during my season. Simon was so mean." And I said to Steven Tyler, I'm like, all the kids out there are saying that they had wished that they were getting the kind of feedback that they're getting. And he goes, "Well, isn't that better to encourage them with kindness and compliments?" It was something like that. But it was good. What I like to do is take what they tell me out there and tell them in there. And then it's almost like you're being a conduit.
Did you happen to see Scott Borchetta?
I did, as a matter of fact. And he was always lovely to me. As a matter of fact, when he was doing his Canadian show, I got an invite to go out there. It was like in Toronto. I would have gone a second. And he was always good to talk to about the direction of the kids and what he was planning on doing.
To keep going on season 10, 11, 12, etc. What comes to mind? Any fun interviews, any moments on the carpet?
Tom Jones.
Oh boy.
I asked him, if you had auditioned for American Idol, what song would you have done? He goes, "Ooh." He says, "Tutti Frutti." And I just imagined it right there, what that would have sounded like. Just moments like that. When Bono and The Edge, I mean, you don't get bigger than that, right? They were promoting the Spider-Man and they came into the press room. It was just crazy, the amount of star power that came for those finales. It was such a fun time. And just Scotty and Lauren, they were just like high school kids. Randy was always great. He would talk to reporters, and he always had a quick story to tell. I remember, let's see, trying to remember if Simon came down that carpet. It was just fun because when the idols all showed up, those kids just showed up and they jumped up, and it was their first big, huge finale carpet ever, and they were just so excited. And you want to treat them nice because it is their first carpet. At least that's how I am. I don't want to embarrass them with their first interviews, and I want to give them their moment. And a lot of they'll give you there's a piece of paper where you stand on, with the paper while they're coming down. I remember Adam Lambert was coming down, and Shirley was calling him over, and I was like, "Adam, do you have time?" And he looked over. He's like, "Oh, wait, they were going to take him." He's like, "These are my friends." And he came over and he gave us the greatest interview, and he was just so gracious, and he was talking about the advice he had for the kids going forward. That's the other thing. a lot of these alumni come back and they offer all kinds of advice to the kids about how to handle everything going forward.
I spotted a video. I think it was you talking to him. It was on the season 12 carpet where he performed with Angie Miller doing Titanium.
Wasn't that wonderful? That
Oh,
was such a great, that was one of my favorite moments too. And first of all, Angie, what a talent she was, right?
yes, insane. And it was an interesting season because there was a lot of controversy surrounding the judges, but it's important to recognize that unfortunately, sometimes even though that can cloud the talent, in my opinion, she was one of the best if you're kind of going down the list in history of the especially unique, original, wrote her own songs, right?
Nicki Minaj loved her.
Yeah.
She legit downloaded that song into her phone and listens to it. So Nicki Minaj was a supporter of hers. Nicki, that was an interesting season with her and Mariah and Nicki being late that one show.
Yeah.
But it makes for all kinds of great copy for us to write about, doesn't it?
For sure. As the show went on and watching it go from Fox to ABC, I'm curious what your take was. Some people were surprised that it came back so soon. Many felt that it was a great return. Others, again, were like, why is it coming back so soon? But it still gave you all more to cover. So what are your initial thoughts on that transition from one network to the next?
Well, I was there for that last show when they brought back all the idols, when they had Philip Phillips come back, and it rained that day. They moved the carpet inside, which was, so we were in a press room, and they kind of set up, so it was like idols on parade all coming through. Caleb was promoting that he was going to be opening for Kiss. Fantasia was there, and she's just lovely,
Yeah.
a lovely person. And Chris Daughtry was on. It was like every idol you'd imagine on parade in there when they brought it back. And I remember we were all in the press room. And it was getting emotional. And then when Ryan Seacrest said, "For now," remember that at the end?
Yes.
Like everyone went, and then we were wondering, well, that sounds hopeful. And then it came back for ABC. It was a totally different vibe, but it's still going on. They keep renewing it and they keep finding successful idols.
And you also have covered America's Got Talent and The Voice, other shows. Any memories from carpets or being part of some of those other similar shows?
Well, America's Got Talent, I didn't actually go out to the carpets there. I did go there when Howard Stern was the judge, and that was fun. And The Voice, I didn't go out for a carpet, but with The Voice and even X Factor, I'd watch it on TV. I'd write up my recaps or whatever. Sometimes you get to interview a contestant when they're eliminated. There's elimination phone calls. They'll call and they'll have the contestant on and they'll have all the journalists on the call and you get to ask a question or two.
You must have so much insight to give into the industry. If we're just talking about journalism as a whole, any advice you have? Let's start with radio.
You have to be ready for rejection. That's number one, but never give up. Always believe in yourself. And sometimes you got to take the job for the bad pay and you just got to suck it up and do those weekend jobs. And I don't know how many overnight jobs there are anymore, but I did overnights, midnight to 6. Talk about having your body clock upside down. But I did overnights. I did nighttime radio, 7 to midnight. There's sacrifices when everybody else is going out to the clubs. You're on the radio, you're taking, calls from kids doing their homework. But also be willing to learn everything at the radio station when you get there. So many people, even kids I work with now, they got on there. They started being promo kids, just going to events and setting up and giving out shirts, and just be willing to listen to everybody at the radio station and just soak up every bit of advice you can. You can do it. It's very, very possible. And you're not going to be great your first couple of shows. You have to practice. That's why I tell everybody that even if they're in a community college, the community college station is invaluable training. You might have 10 people listening in the dorms, but you're practicing your craft and you're learning how to execute a break. You have to have a beginning, middle, and end, one thought per break. These are all things you learn as you go along. Everybody has diarrhea in the mouth when they start, everybody. But you've got to cut it down and you've got to communicate it so that the audience can follow along. So with radio, you could start as an intern You could work in promo. You could get on the air, or you could learn production. There's just so many different things you could do in radio besides on air. And now with social media, there's social media manager positions. They have people running the accounts for the radio stations. I run the socials here at 1071 The Boss, up to doing the Instagram. You could wear many hats in radio.
By the way, any favorite guest? I mean, so many, I'm sure, over the years, people you've interviewed.
Oh, wow. Chris Daughtry, my idol pal, David Cook. Oh, I love David Cook. I love Chris Allen. Like these guys they're all different artists, but they all have their own separate personalities. Taylor Hicks, I've kept up with him. And this is really important advice. Is he always told the kids, stay close to how people know you. They know you from television. Mark that.
Wow. Don't forget where you came from, right?
Exactly. He said, these people discovered you on TV. Remember that. And look at Kelly Clarkson and how she's parlayed everything. She's got her own show. She pretty much owns NBC.
Blake Shelton calls it nothing but Clarkson.
It is nothing but Clarkson.
Yeah, even Jennifer Hudson now. It's amazing.
Yep. Oscar winner.
As far as advice for writers, going beyond Billboard, Variety, I've seen the list of dozens of different sites that you've been featured on. Any tips for people who want to get into freelance or looking to cover some of the bigger shows?
A lot of people want to start at the top. And it's very possible you can get an internship and be writing for these publications and maybe get hired as an intern. But I did it the old-fashioned way, like with newspapers and covering town meetings. And you have to learn the formatics of writing. It takes a while, but no assignment is beneath you. I did a lot of writing about Idol. I did a lot of writing about music. And that led me to John Bon Jovi. He had read a bunch of articles that I had done when I was covering. Well, let's see. There was a time when he wasn't going to be on his label anymore. He was kind of like in a weird place with his label. And I wrote a story, and he hired me to write the bios for 2 of his records. So you never know where your writing is going to lead you.
That introduction to Shirley really changed everything as far as.
Well, Shirley, the way I met her was I was on the radio in New Jersey, and she was a student at Rutgers, and she came to the radio station because she wanted to write an article about my radio station for Rutgers. And I just happened to be on the air. She was starting up her own publication, and I wrote some things for her, and we've been friends ever since.
Just wanted to get a couple final thoughts from you about American Idol as it stands
Sure.
now, because the show, going into its 22nd season, it also rated as the top social series the past couple years. Ratings might have gone down on television, but it's currently the #1 social series. And that's a big deal because I feel like now with social media, that is a key factor in how a show's doing. And people are still tuning in. People are still getting excited. What do you think American Idol needs to do to keep staying on top?
Just keep finding that talent. Got to get another Gabby back. Benson Boone's doing well. He took himself out of the competition, and he's having success now. They've really widened the net with their online auditions. I'd love it if they'd get some big guests for the finale. I mean, they do that.
I actually think the last finale, they pulled in some pretty big talent.
That's right. I think they're doing fine the way they are. Katie's fine. Luke's fine. Everybody loves Lionel. He was funny. He was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he had done a show in Vegas, and I guess I was like, wow, that was quick. You got here. He's like, oh, you noticed that, huh?
Are there any elements that you kind of miss from seasons past that you'd love to see come back?
Here's what I think they should bring back. I think we should get an executive back on the judges panel. When you have artists on there, they're not always wanting to cut into another artist because they know how that feels and they want to be nice. But sometimes you need somebody to tell a contestant the truth. Like maybe they didn't like their look that week, or maybe they didn't like the haircut. I think you need somebody on there to explain to them what they need to do to go forward in the record business. And I'd love it if they would bring back some kind of a tour, something to get the kids out there with the people to perform when the season's over, because that's crucial to get out there and start working your fan base. Also, I kind of wish there'd be a little bit more honesty on the panel. Just a little bit. I know everyone's afraid of getting canceled, people saying that you're a big meanie and everything, but that's not going to help somebody's career.
Right.
If somebody's always being a yes man to you, then every bad decision you're going to make is going to make you go down in flames. You might as well have somebody tell you while you're, go. And sometimes the kids don't always listen. They don't always listen. Remember when Simon told John Peter Lewis he needed voice lessons? And then he said, the first thing I'm going to do is not get voice lessons.
You know, bizarrely, Michelle, the thing I remember more is Simon telling John Peter Lewis, "You look like a pen salesman."
Pen salesman. Well, this is no knock on JPL because I think he did well. Remember, he went on The Voice. He was Midas
Might as well,
Bell
yeah.
and everything. And I think I just saw on Instagram he's making films. And he did that musical or whatever, that folk musical. So no knock on him at all. But sometimes I think maybe a little bit of criticism. Then you think about it, and then you go forward, and then you improve.
I also think that the tour would add some stakes because to me, the bigger the show got, they weren't just competing to win Idol. Once you made that top 10 or your top 24, top 13, if you make the top 10, you're going on that tour. Now it's like, oh, I'm also winning the experience of being a touring artist. And that is just as valuable sometimes as being the American Idol, right?
It is. It could make you lazy. The whole, well, okay, and you can't be lazy in a competition like that. You always have to keep improving your game because ultimately you want to win, right?
Sure.
But it is good to get out there and perform and make your moves and get your fan base out there. And it's also good to meet the people. It's good PR for you. It's good for the fans, and it creates loyalty.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see some avenues for the kids post-Idol to work their careers, because sometimes I feel like they're a little bit on their own. That needs to be addressed.
We fans get so excited about the show that we want more. So we watch it and we want to read about it. We want to know what's going on behind the scenes. And you go so in depth and you give us all the details. I can't thank you enough because over the years, having read so many of your stories and knowing what you've brought to this world of American Idol, I want to thank you so much for your time. And if you want to plug your socials, again, 107.1 The Boss, anything else that you want to talk about real quick?
Oh, sure. Let's see. My on-air name is Michele Amabile, so that's why it gets a little confusing with my socials. But I'm Michele Amabile on Twitter. Then it's Michele Amabile Radio DJ on Instagram, and 107.1 The Boss on our Facebook page and socials. And we have all kinds of fun things going on at the radio station. So check it out, 107.1theboss.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate your time. And everybody, thank you so much for listening to Idol Insiders.